We are going live. Hello, everyone. Oh crap! We're not gonna go with an intro. We're just gonna go with it. I hope everyone is doing well on this Saturday. We've got a wonderful show coming up for you guys. We're going to talk about the stand. What went wrong with the stand? We are here with one half of Tag Team Valkyrie, Purple Valkyrie. Good afternoon, Purple.
Hi.
We are
Good
here
afternoon.
with the one and only Paulie from Latino Slant. How are you doing, Paulie?
Good day. Hello there.
Hello.
Hola.
We have got Deej Odyssey. How you doing, brother?
Greetings, and thank you for having me on here today. I just want to rant about this mess.
I completely, wholeheartedly agree with you. And of course, we have Robert Meyer Burnett from the Burnett Network. How are you doing, brother?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. It's an honor to have you. This was, you know what? I was really looking forward to this. When I saw the cast, I was like, holy crap, they've got like a star-studded cast. I want to see Whoopi Goldberg say, I'm Mother Abigail, and I am at Hemmingford home. And I was like, yes! We watched the preview over on the Latino Slant show with Paulie, and we were excited about it. And I was like, man, I can't believe this. And then it just kind of disappeared, and nothing else happened.
Yeah, I've never seen a show they tried to bury this show by let's just pretend it's not here. You know, there was a little bit of promotion, but then even Stephen King only tweeted about it like once.
That's incredible.
That's a good point. When it first aired, I was looking for it. I was expecting it to be trending on Twitter. Crickets. I couldn't find be talking about it.
Yeah, no, I don't know what you guys thought. I watched the first episode, slack-jawed. I'm like, wait a minute. You're starting the show, you're spending more time with Harold Lauder than you're spending with Stu? What?
Like in Boulder already.
Right. You in Boulder. I mean, it opened in Boulder, and I just thought. I mean, I would call myself a stand. I was telling you this before we went on. A stand sycophant, and I think I read the book for the first time when I was like 12, when it first came out, and it's one of the most wildly entertaining books I've ever read. And the first third of the book is the unleashing of Captain Trips on the world, the super flu, and then all of the characters are being put on the chessboard and they're being moved around, and it's all about the journey. You know, you're meeting characters that are finding their way to Vegas because they're influenced by Randall Flagg, and then the characters that are moving toward Mother Abigail in Hemmingford home in Colorado. And it's just, it's so propulsive, and it's this whole moving forward, this whole journey. And the idea that they adopted this flashback structure, I think, destroyed the narrative momentum of the whole story. And I was perplexed by this, because you've got the book. Like, why not do the book? And it was because, well, maybe they said, well, this has been done before in the original 90s miniseries, but it's still, it robbed the story of any narrative thrust. Because you would start and stop and start and stop and start and stop, and it was bizarre. I'm like, how did they decide upon this?
Who decided that? Yeah, who decided that, and why did they decide to do that? When that's like the journey. That the whole first half of that is the journey, getting, you know, from where these people were when this happened to getting either meeting Flagg, meeting Mother Abigail, to getting to Las Vegas or getting to Boulder.
Right. And it's a mystery. Like, what's going to happen when they get there? You know, and that's why it's like, as they draw ever closer, and it was strange. And like you, I mean, I thought all of the cast I really liked who they cast, but to focus that first hour so much on bullied Harold Lauder was so strange to me, because, you know, the character of Stu Redman, and I really thought that James Marsden was really good. I thought he was terrific, like Gary Sinise was in the original Mick Garris miniseries. And he was kind of the focal point. You kind of followed the good guys through him. And he wasn't the focus he was in the first hour, but he wasn't the focus of the first hour. And Harold's story was just not that interesting, especially since he really doesn't make it to the end of the story.
No.
So why spend so much time on him? And the showrunner was saying that, well, I think he's really the protagonist of this tale. And I'm like, what? Were you bullied as a kid? So you identified with him and let's put him front and center?
That makes no sense.
Yeah, that could be a good point, because they did seem to be trying to make him into a sympathetic character. She isn't, he's not a good character if you read the book and watch the miniseries. And, that's the whole point of him. He's not meant to be. But they were flip-flopping back and forth between how they wanted to portray Harold. And I've got to admit, I never really latched onto him as a character.
No, he was a dick in the book. I mean, he ultimately wants to murder people and destroy the good people of Hemmingford Home or Boulder,
What do you think about that first episode, Deej?
I was ticked off, actually, because they should have started the entire thing with how they ended episode 1, with Champion escaping with the virus. Not start off with Harold throwing up outside the church in Boulder because he couldn't handle the dead bodies, which honestly he should have been able to handle at that point because he'd been across the country.
Right.
But it just made me sad that the original miniseries told a better story in 6 hours and 1 minute than this thing did in 8.5 hours.
Yeah, that's true. Paulie, what do you think about that first run at it?
It's very lazy storytelling. It's not even. I don't know what I was watching, and there wasn't a lot of entertainment, and the characters that I liked, I'm just really perplexed at what I saw. So, because I remember reading it in such a long time ago, and just being so taken in with the world, and they just had none of it. It was just yeah. So yeah, same, and I love that actor playing Harold. I loved a lot of the actors actually.
Yeah.
He was in Bloodlines. He's outstanding. This is such they had such weird writing to work with, that you can see they're just doing their best, these actors. And then there's a couple actors that weren't, that I felt, it was like uneven. There was like some uneven actors with bad writing, shitty pacing, excuse my language. It's just because I'm also trying to all right, I'm trying to see it as if I'm not a King fan. I didn't read it. Is this good television? So, yeah. That's where I'm at right now.
D.D. Meyer said, "I feel that the newer version just destroyed the whole show for me." It did. When you go back and you watch that miniseries, I'm sorry, the miniseries did a much better job at telling a story, and there's a movie with called Basic with John Travolta and Samuel Jackson, and they say this through the whole movie: everything will be okay if we just tell the story right. And they say that through the whole movie over and over and over again. And that's what I felt. If you guys had just told the story right, this would be great. I don't care what you race swapped. I don't care what people that you swap their orientation. I don't care about any of that. If you just told the story right, we would have a great show here. You had a really good cast, at least a cast that I liked. I thought you didn't get enough Whoopi, you didn't get enough Flag, you didn't get Mother Abigail. Sorry, you didn't get enough Mother Abigail. You didn't get enough Flag. But the people that played these roles, even Amber Heard. I don't particularly like Amber Heard as a person, but I thought she did a great job as Nadine. She over the top a little bit when she was like, "All hail Lucifer and the dark evil powers from beyond." I don't remember Nadine being like that, but okay, you had an evil woman playing an evil woman. That's great.
I did have one problem with the race swap. When they turned Larry into a black man and then used every stereotypical trope on him, that was kind of horrible.
I couldn't agree with you more. I have no problem making Larry Underwood a black man, but then the drug addiction and all of that, I know they took some of that from the book, but they did it in the most heavy-handed, cliche way ever. And I
Drug addiction, the abuse of women, the way he went after and just dumped them, the stealing of the music. They turned him into a big thief. It's like, what in the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
how was it different than how was that different than the character before? Do you remember?
Well, in the book, he is an overnight success because of Baby Can You Dig Your Man, and he's dealing with the rock star excess, and in this, you never get the sense that he's successful. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting about that character is here he gets everything he wants. He gets to be a rock star. He's living he's out, like in Malibu before he goes home to his mom, and he's rented he's just living the rock star, the drugs, the partying, and then he decides to go home. But what was interesting to me about the character is that here he achieves what he wants as a rock star, and then the world goes to hell. So any celebrity or any success or any of that is meaningless. So here Larry Underwood as a character achieved this thing that he wanted. Yeah, the lifestyle probably would have killed him, but then all of it is swept away. And there was none of that in this miniseries. They turned him into basically a thug who sings, in local clubs. And I just thought that was so lame and, like you said, cliche. And I was like, why do that? When he meets like Rita Blackmore, there was the crazy scene where the three guys were pursuing them and we'll give you $1 million to have her. Like they were the sex crazed maniacs on the streets of New York City. And during a pandemic, it's like during a pandemic, I mean, I know these people are survivors, but that was such an odd thing to do. And they made these choices like, oh, okay, let's just have these three ghoulish Wall Street types show up and we're going to have them offer $1 million to take Rita Blackmore off Larry Underwood's hands so we can, rape her, chain her up in a basement? Like it was such a weird thing to do. And it felt so, wait a minute, this is not how people would act. It's if these people were capable of doing that, they would be on their way to Vegas having been tempted by Randall Flagg already, because those are exactly the kind of people that he would want to be part of his army. But no, they're chasing them on the streets of New York. And then we have that lame scene, one of the scenes that was so memorable in the book, this is the Lincoln Tunnel scene.
Yep.
When they cross through, when Larry and Rita go through the Lincoln Tunnel to get out, and they can't see anything, and it's full of rats, and they get rid of all of that, and Larry's in a sewer by himself, as if that was, and it's then the showrunner said, well, in this day and age, we couldn't justify the fact that he just wouldn't cross a bridge. And I'm thinking, did you not see movies like I Am Legend with Will Smith? When the plague breaks out, the first thing they do is blow the bridges to keep everybody in Manhattan. So just do that, and the choices they made were so strange. I didn't get it.
And really disappointing. Really disappointing, because some of these teleplay episodes was written by Stephen King's son himself, who should have known better.
Yeah. Or though he was just following marching orders. I've heard that the direction, I think it was Josh Boone who directed New Mutants, he was going to, I guess, direct the whole thing at one point, and it wasn't really working out. So he only directed the pilot episode. Maybe we know why. Maybe we can see. The choices, the writing of this was strange to me.
Well, yeah, and rearranging the rearranging of so much that was so pivotal to the book.
Right.
I mean, I know I brought this up earlier, but cutting out that trek, that is a huge part of how are they going to get there? Are they going to get there? Who's going to make it? Who's not going to make it? What's going to happen when they get there? Is Mother Abigail going to be there? What is Flag doing? And the Flag character, to me, that's half the fun is Flag. And call me whatever you want, but that was one of the characters that I really enjoyed because of his chaotic and mischievous nature. He's one of those bad guys that you like to hate. And there's a scene later in the show where Nadine jumps out that window. That is not what happens, and that is not that should not have been the way that played out in this show. There's a reason Flag loses his temper, and it's almost that, yeah, he is powerful, but all of this works against him. He's his own worst enemy, especially when it came to Nadine. I don't know why they took that out of there. If they were trying to, we'll empower her and let her turn back from the darkness at the last second. No. That is why she tried to get Larry to do what he did. That is why she tried to talk Larry into sleeping with her in the end, and he didn't do it, and he had reservations because she knew what she was walking into, and she knew that once she did that, there was no going back. And Flag basically killing her, that was his own fault, and that they should have never changed that. There's so many points in the show where I said I wish they hadn't have changed that.
Yeah, that's one of the kind of pivotal roles for his character, because it shows that he can actually lose control. You think throughout the book, he's so, he knows exactly what's happening. He knows what's happening in Vegas. He knows what's happening in Boulder, but it just proves that he's not infallible. He can be pushed over the edge and to snap and to do something incredibly stupid then is a detriment to himself. I think we didn't get that so much in the TV series.
Also, the flashback structure really worked against, you're following the story and you're really into what's going on, and then they take you away. And either they move you through time or move you over to another character. And so it really felt very herky-jerky, at least the first half of the miniseries did. And, you're not... It was strangely... I felt so unmoved. I called it inert. The storytelling was so inert. The first couple episodes, I'm like, I am not involved or absorbed by this at all. Yeah. And it was so strange. Like, I was thinking, why did you decide to do this? And I wondered, was it scripted that way? Or did they shoot it the way it was meant to be in the book? And then they decided in post-production to go with this sort of, it's now cliche, this flashback lost structure.
I say they did it on purpose from the get-go because there was so much missing from the backstory to begin with.
You're probably right about that.
I mean, I'm totally in agreement with you as far as not caring at all for any of these characters, which, to me, Deej, you brought up race swapping of the Larry character. It's like, that was like the least of my worries. I didn't give a shit about any of these people.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't care the fact that they race swapped him.
Yeah, I'm just saying that. Just saying that, they had way bigger problems. And that's the storytelling.
Yeah.
Because, and then you talk about what you brought up as far as the drug addiction and ladies' man. There was completely no redemption for him at the end. I mean, it was so stupid, and then everyone was like that, everyone. And there was hardly any Mother Abigail. I mean, and a lot of just wasted opportunity because it seemed to have a budget, right? It seemed it had a budget, so I don't know what. I guess
they even had the extended time to tell the story.
Correct. But inert is a great word, Robert. Inert is an amazing word.
Like, that's what it just, because it just was I kept waiting for it to sort of catch narrative fire for me, and I felt like I couldn't even get it smoldering. It just was there, and I watched it and I'm like, I feel nothing.
And there was like little moments, the performance of Tom Cullen. I love that actor. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. Greg Kinnear, I can watch in almost anything, and I loved his little moment in the courtroom. But even then, that courtroom scene was just what a disaster.
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah.
It's like, it's interesting because those changes, they're like, I guess they felt that it was what was in the book needed to be somehow updated. That, the book is over 40 years old now, and they in their updating, it's almost like I feel like this show was, in a way, it was on CBS, and I'll draw a line, but to Star Trek, to current incarnations of Star Trek, it's like these are based on more classical storytelling, and that the showrunners, they themselves are, well, I'll say younger, and maybe they're not like, they don't understand the classical forms of storytelling. Go back to literary. They want to update things and make them sort of more modern, but they don't have enough tools in their toolbox to do it effectively. So when they want to update things, they make these strange choices. And you're like, why are you making these choices? Where do you come from? And I felt this way. I don't know if it's a CBS All Access thing, because I felt that way about the new Twilight Zone. I felt this way about modern Star Trek, and The Stand felt like why are you abandoning the class? Like, for instance, Stu, the character of Stu, he's the everyman. He's he's baseball and apple pie, salt of the earth American, and he represents everything that's good about America. The classical American character that and you love. And so when America starts to go all to hell, he's that character that sort of represents all of us. And watching the maelstrom of Captain Trips and the plague unfolding around him, and his response to it, is what makes us as the viewer or the reader sympathize or empathize with the plight, the whole story, because we think about to ourselves, I could be that guy. Yeah. I'm him. And if this was happening to him, that's what made it so compelling, is you're following along as a reader, or in the original miniseries, you're like, I totally get what this would be like, because we're seeing it through the eyes of Stu Redman. And in this miniseries, I didn't empathize. Nobody felt like, they made him a Marine, and he had military training, and so and maybe that was, I don't remember that being a part of the original story, but everybody had these qualities that it's like they were afraid to embrace middle America or just normal Americans. And that was part of the story, is that it is about America itself falling apart. Yeah. And I didn't feel that about this. I felt like I'm watching a construct, and you didn't have any of these sort of underlying, what Stephen King is best at is taking the every person and making them characters that you can completely relate to. And then he throws at you the supernatural and these horrible experiences. The great thing about Stephen King was he takes horror out of, say, the mountains of Carpathia, and he puts them in your neighborhood. That crazy psychic girl that lives down the road, she's going to kill all of your friends at the high school prom.
Yeah.
And so that's what Stephen King's strength is. And I felt like I didn't relate or believe in any of the characters as they were written in this miniseries. They all felt written, and they felt written wrong, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, it does. It makes sense, because even with the Tom part where he's missing Nick at the end, because they hardly showed anything with Nick and Tom.
Nope.
Nick was completely shortchanged in this miniseries.
Yep. And they sorry, Paul. I just want to say real quick. They race swapped him, and I don't understand why they race swapped him. Making him a Latino, that is perfectly fine. I don't care about that at all. If you want to make him Latino, that's fine. But was there a point to doing that? And it's like we didn't get almost any of Nick.
No.
And like you said, the whole thing with him and Tom is just gone. You get that one scene with what's her name, the crazy chick, and that's all you get.
Well, I will say, and I loved how you're deconstructing it, Robert, because they're afraid of Middle America and they don't know how to write for fucking minorities when they put them in there.
Right.
And you could go back to what Deej said, because it's like, it makes no sense okay, great. So give Nick some, give him more of his original story. Give me more of Larry's story. I was reminded of Larry's character, reminded me of Gary Clark Jr. He's an Austin. He's an Austin musician. They look just like each other. Into that hat and the beanie, the guitar. He's pretty well pretty successful. And he was in John Sayles' Honey Tripper, where he plays a blues musician. Anyways, that's who I saw. So I knew the image that they were going for, and it's a modern rock star. Okay, cool. But it was after that there was nothing,
No.
And it's like, you're so right. It's like they're afraid of middle America, and they don't know how to write. They just figure, well, let me put the bookmark a Latino one, a black one, a Native American woman who doesn't even say shit in the whole damn thing. Then you have a woman who was, who almost was like, was in a sex slave thing with this guy, like was getting a bunch of girls. He was the alpha male. And she comes in, she was like one of the spies, right?
Yep.
And then she ends up taking herself out. It's like, what is going on? This is...
Yeah. Well, something else. So Nick, like you said, they make him Latin, and one of the things that I thought they really missed the boat on is when I came from Seattle, when I moved to Los Angeles, I really loved. We didn't have Latino culture in Seattle, and I went out. I dated a Mexican girl for a while, and her family was awesome. Like they would have these.
Yes.
I've never felt so embraced, and the every weekend there was a giant barbecue, and I was like, what better way to show, like, you could have gone in Nick's backstory and shown the decimation of a family. Like, what better way to show? And I kept thinking, like, my God, you show these really vibrant, big, happy, making food, everybody's having a good time, and then boom, they all get destroyed by the plague, and Nick has this because he's disabled, and he has this family that loves him, and then suddenly he's alone. They could have done something with his Latino background that showed the vibrancy of Latino culture, and then it was all swept away in a day, and Nick loses his family that has always been there for him or whatever. And then when he goes on his journey, it becomes that much more heartbreaking.
And when they get to Boulder, they have that big party where they're playing the guitar on top of the building, and he's around all those people, and you see a tear go down his eye, like, I'm home.
Yes,
Family.
exactly. And I just felt that is such a part of The Stand, because it really is about the destruction of what do we have in America that is worth preserving, and it is family, and it is helping people and helping your neighbor, and the whole thing about what Randall Flagg is doing is, it's kind of every man for himself. I'm selfish, I want this. The people that are attracted to him, and then the good people are all people that are looking for the families that they've lost, and by going to Hemingford Home, literally they find this extended family with literally a character named Mother Abigail. She stands in for every mother that was killed in the plague. And all of that was gone. It was just gone from this miniseries. And I'm like, it was such a missed opportunity.
And and they also didn't know how to deal with the spirituality of.
Oh my God, you're so right.
No, they didn't.
And it's that really offends me. I mean, I was like, yeah, it was just so.
I was talking to Purple about the episode where they've got Larry and what's her name in the pool, and it's supposed to be the hand of God coming down when Trash Can Man brings the nuke in. That is not in any way, shape, or form anything like I remember that original book. It was like they were crucified in that book, and it was like the hand of God came down and set off the nuke. That is not what we saw. We saw a magical ball of light, and it shot lightning and killed people. That's all I saw in that scene.
Well,
there was
they tried to allude to the hand of God with the clouds coming down around the building first. But even that was poorly done, to where if you didn't know what you were looking for, you would have never known what was going on.
But also that they kind of missed the whole point of Captain Trips. It's not just a virus. It's almost on a biblical scale. It's like the flood, but it wipes out humanity.
Yep.
And they completely
Absolutely.
glossed over that as well. This is Judgment Day.
Absolutely, it is. And I think that there's nothing wrong with embracing. I mean, the Stand is literally, it alludes back to the battle between good and evil, the devil and God. That's all part of the story, and it was like scrubbed away in this.
Scrubbed away, and that's what makes it so wonderful too, because it's like, that's the story, good and evil. The God and the devil, let's go. I mean, what are these guys afraid of? They're just, man. Yeah, sorry I cut you off, Robert.
No, not at all. It's again, all of these narrative choices were sort of strange to me, because the Stand is about the apocalypse of, say, I said earlier, middle America. It's not about stockbrokers in Wall Street. They're not the main characters. It's the every person. It's the salt of the earth Americans that are called upon to do this battle. There's a reason why it's not set in Europe. It's this battle. Part of the reason it's an American thing, and in a way, metaphorically, what an opportunity. This could have been a great opportunity to show this divide in our own country. If you wanted to update it, the tribalism that has taken over in this country, and the divisiveness between everyone. And the whole thing about the Stand is, when the world has been decimated, people are all that's left. And our political ideologies or our petty differences must be swept away in order for us to survive. And if you wanted to update the story, there's what you could have done, and shown that at the end of the day, what the strength of Americans is the strength of our country. You go back to those foundational principles, whether it's the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, but it's that when you cross somebody on the road, for the most part, Americans are good at helping each other.
Absolutely.
If you come by somebody with a broken down, like a flat tire on a lonely country road, you're going to stop. In America, you used to stop and help people. Yep. And that's what we've lost, and that's what the Stand really was alluding to. And what an opportunity. You could have really spent more time doing more of that in.
As somebody from the Midwest, we still do stop for people along the road. We still do that.
As we all should.
I wanted to ask you guys that, because this was something I caught myself seeing every once in a while I was watching this series. I would get a smile on my face and be like, holy crap, this is something good, and then poof, it was gone. And it happened multiple times throughout this series. It was like there was a shining light of, holy crap, I for a split second you love it, and then it's like it's gone and drained away. Moments of holy crap, this could have been so good, and then gone. Did any of y'all feel the same way?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, there were little nuggets of bits that they did really well. I thought they actually portrayed Captain Trips much better in this version than they did in, say, the 94 version. They didn't flinch away. It was much more visceral. It almost harked back to the images from the book, if you guys have ever read it. And it was illustrated by Bernie Wrightson. It was that kind of level of horror, with the swollen necks, and to portray this virus as it is. I thought that was actually done really well. I thought some of the character interactions were really good, especially the little tiny bits that we had with Nick and Tom. I thought the two actors played off each other really well. Alexander Skarsgård, I thought made a great Flag. I just wish we'd had more of him.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And he was a little too kind of Zen surfer evil dude.
Yeah.
I wanted more, a little bit more where he's relishing what he's doing. You know, the Jamie Sheridan Randall Flag was more playful. You know, he and I wanted a little bit, because I love Alexander Skarsgård, and I wanted to see a little bit more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Rub-a-dub-dub. Thanks for the grub. Yeah. Yes.
You know?
Now you brought up the surfer bit. That's where I felt the Tom Cullen character went. I thought he was more of a burnout surfer type dude than somebody with a mental handicap.
Yeah,
I liked him. I actually liked him. Him repeating himself over and over and over again. I liked that. I did. I maybe it was just me. I don't know, but I liked it.
It was okay. I just got really annoyed with it real quick. And he just didn't seem like a mentally handicapped person to me. He just sounded like a burned out surfer.
Well, and the thing about also the Tom Cullen character is he is, in a way, the most pure of heart of all the characters. In a way, he, even though he obviously is mentally challenged, he has been touched by God, and that his heart is pure.
Yep.
And
I was pissed when they cut out that whole section to where he saved Stu with the help of Nick's.
Yeah.
Agreed. No, I think we were talking about that before we went live. Because I didn't remember if Nick gave Stu the cure. It's been 20 years since I've read the book, so I didn't remember it. And it was Nick giving Tom the cure for Stu, and they cut all of that out, and they replaced it with this new back end story with Franny, which I didn't. I get the very, very end with Flag, but I didn't understand what was the point of, like, okay, so a young Mother Abigail is there and then she's gone. Was that Mother Abigail? Was it God? What are we trying to say here? What is King trying to give us in this new rewritten ending that he's done again?
Yeah, that was
didn't get it.
But yeah,
it was a ripoff of an episode of Lassie. Let's just point out Timmy fell down the well.
Franny fell down the well.
Franny was one of the characters that just did nothing for me throughout the entire show. I couldn't feel much for her. I didn't particularly like the actress playing her. Whereas in the book, she's one of my favorite characters.
100%.
Really weird.
Yes. Agreed. I thought the casting for this show at times was phenomenal, and then we get Odessa Young as Franny, and we get Nate Wolff as Lloyd, and that is not ever what I ever pictured Lloyd being. Lloyd was a convict. He was a hardened criminal. That is not what I pictured when I pictured Lloyd ever. And that maybe that's something that the old miniseries did a lot better. I can't remember the name of the actor who played him in the miniseries. I remember him on RoboCop. I know it was the same guy that played the guy who made RoboCop in RoboCop. Yeah. But this kid is not who I imagine Lloyd being ever in the book.
Look, Lloyd, Trash Can Man.
Yeah.
You know, look, I like Ezra Miller. I'm a fan of Ezra Miller's, but clearly he was let off the reservation or whatever. He was I don't know what he was doing, but you know, again, the same way that I always saw Trash Can Man as sort of the mirror of Tom Cullen, in the sense that clearly he whereas Tom Cullen unfortunately was born the way he was born, but Trash Can Man has a complete, I always saw him as he's around the bend insane.
Yes. For
whatever reason. And then by the way, Miguel Ferrer is the actor that you're thinking about, who's great, who's in RoboCop, and he played Lloyd. But Trash Can Man's like masturbating over fire and stuff like that. And I'm like, in a way, I'm like, okay, I get what you're trying to do here, and it's almost like you brought them a character and they just let him run amok, Ezra Miller. But I found it really distracting. I'm like, look, this guy is the most, in a way, the most loyal to Randall Flagg. He's the person that is most wanting to please him, and in a way, with Trash Can Man, he literally is the character that wants to go to hell. He wants to live in fire. He wants to live in the underworld where he can be seeing whatever he sees in fire the most. And he's simple in that way. But when you start making it weird and sexual, look, I've got no problem with sexual depravity. I love it when it's in a story. But in this case, they were sort of mixing and matching things that I just didn't think worked.
No.
And Lloyd was like, I don't believe this guy. I don't believe in Lloyd. I don't believe, Lloyd should be a little bit more cunning and not more. He's kind of an idiot.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to figure out the fixation on the whole masturbation with this series anyway, because there was multiple characters that were doing it. The guy that was going to Yankee Stadium. Yep. You had Trash Can Man. You had what's his face? Harold.
I think the guy in Yankee Stadium was from the book, though. But yes, I know what you're saying.
It seemed like they wanted to focus in on that sort of thing all through the series, and it's like, come on, tell the good story part.
Yeah.
They left out so much, and it just hurts my head.
They really did. And I don't think that the reaction they got from me, at least, when Trash Can Man finally does show up in Vegas with the new little golf carts looking like the Crypt Keeper, I had to pause because I was laughing that hard. I just thought it was just the most ridiculous scene, and I'm guessing that's not what they were going for. But I just
you brought up CBS earlier, Rob, and the way I felt about like Star Trek Discovery and even Picard was that it's being told by people that got flashcards of what those characters are supposed to be and what the Federation is supposed to be. They didn't actually sit down and they don't know what it's supposed to be, and they don't know what those characters are supposed to be. And that's the way I feel about this whole series, was they got like a flashcard of what it's supposed to be, and they don't really know what it's supposed to be. How can Stephen King be involved in this and they not know what it's supposed to be? It's infuriating.
Well, I agree with you. I feel that the people who are watching or making Star Trek now have not watched much of the series. And they might have watched some of the original episodes, but I feel like they've never watched something like Deep Space Nine, and this, the Twilight Zone, the Jordan Peele Twilight Zone. When I watch these shows, I'm like, this seems to be the pop culture memory of what Twilight Zone actually is. And they go and they watch, like, they pick the 10 best Twilight Zone episodes, and they watch those. Well, there's 157 Twilight Zone episodes, and they run the gamut of all different kinds of stories. And I feel like the people that are running these things just didn't do their homework. And like you said, I would be hard pressed if all of these writers had even read the book, which to me is like, and I know for a fact this kind of stuff happens all the time. People don't want to do their homework. I get this. I understand. I can write these episodes without having to read the book. What do I need to read the book for? And you can tell. Because anybody who reads the book fixates on the same things the way Stephen King wanted it. The book is delicious. It's like going and eating pick your favorite, meal that might be a little bad for you, but also tastes so damn good. That's what The Stand is. And how you can not read the book and find it so delicious and concentrate on the things that made it delicious. None of that was brought to this miniseries. And it was weird.
They couldn't even get where Hemingford Home was. Right.
Well, let me ask you this. Is this all under JJ's people?
I don't think this was.
None of his disciples?
Oh, that I don't know.
It just seems that like there's this bigger problem that we address and yet we don't address, as far as the entertainment that's coming out of through JJ and his disciples, from Lost to Star Trek to because to me this was like The Stand was like Rise of Skywalker. I mean, they were throwing up anything. And yeah, you know, used to have this story called this, and we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do this. Oh, we're gonna do that. Yeah, get a Latino, get a black, you know, like what? And I just see that in all of the stuff that this guy and Kurtzman and they touch. So I don't know if anyone in the chat or anyone here if they got their hands on this as well, because I know they're gonna, you know, they got Superman's next.
Superman's next, yeah.
No, it is strange. I mean, I felt that way. For instance, Watchmen. Like, I'm a huge Watchmen fanatic.
Yeah.
I've read the comic probably 30 times, and I was really interested in the show. But one of the things that I was baffled by was the portrayal. I love Jeremy Irons, but the way they had written Ozymandias in that show, I thought was bizarre. Like the choices they made, and even Lindelof, who is a J.J. Abrams disciple, or he says he was in an interview talking about, well, when TV writers get together, we try and out woke each other, you know. So they're bringing. Look, I am all for inclusion. I think it makes all of us stronger, but that you still have to. Inclusion comes after. You still have to have great characters and tell a great story.
Yes.
And what I find, so it's weird when you race swap or gender swap. Bring something more into the character. Don't just cast a black actor. Lean into what does it mean to be black in America, and how would that affect your response to a pandemic where everybody's dying? Don't just make him black. You know,
if anything, I'm going to cut you. I'm sorry. If anything, I love the mom, Lisa Marie Pitts, the lady who played the mom.
She was great.
She was great.
She was
My
great.
God, that was so good. And I know Lisa's work. She's friends of Mrs. Slant, and it was great to see her, you know, like dig into that. And she only had a great actor, man. They'll have 3 or 4 scenes, and you won't, you know, if they're great, you'll never forget them. And she was wonderful, and you know, would have liked to have dug in that relationship a little bit more, you know. Or she was such a good mom. Why was he you know, so bad off? But you're right, you know, they didn't know what they had. They don't know what they had.
You know, this person, you just put up this quote here. Eastland Burkholder says, imagine a collaborative effort with no one supporting anyone else's ideas. Nothing gets polished or improved, like the pretties ripped off Cinderella's dress. I totally understand that. I think you're really onto something there, because it feels like all of these things everything feels like it's a first draft to me. Like nothing has been polished, nothing has been refined, and there's all these disparate ideas that don't really work together, and it's odd. And I feel that way. I feel like Star Trek Discovery is the same thing. I'm watching a show where nothing feels organic to Star Trek. It's all forced and made up, and it doesn't make any sense, and nothing holds together. And I'm like, where did all this come from? Like, who reads I used to read scripts for a living professionally, and when I'm watching something like Star Trek Discovery, I'm like, who not only did who wrote this, but who sat down and approved these stories to be put in front of the camera? Like, it makes no sense to me. They're so baroque and weird, and nothing makes sense, and characters don't act like they should, and no one feels like a real person. It's bizarre, and I felt that way about The Stand.
Yeah, you guys were talking about it earlier. You know, they can be criticized for doing a show about a global pandemic whilst we're in a global pandemic, but they actually had a brilliant opportunity to portray how people can be better and how you can get through it and how you can work together. As you were saying, you know, showing what America is, and why it wouldn't work in Europe. I think they really missed the mark with this, and it's a shame.
Well, I think the problem with that, though, was this was pretty much all done with before the pandemic. It was supposed to, I think, have been out last March.
Yeah.
And they postponed it because of the pandemic, because they thought it was not the right time to show that. But if they just wrote it like the original, it would have made more sense and gave people more hope.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody in the chat, Humor and Waffles, says, in college, my roommate had an entire semester to write a report on The Stand. That right there, they're right.
Yes.
That's exactly right. They watched the TV miniseries and they figured that was enough, and they based everything they did on the TV miniseries.
Yes.
I absolutely guarantee you that's what happened here.
Hmm. And I'd say The Stand is probably one of Stephen King's strongest books. I know he thinks that his Dark Tower series is his greatest work, but I'd say The Stand is a much better written book. It flows much better. The characters are more interesting.
Not only that, but you got Flagg, who is instrumental to a whole bunch of Stephen King's work.
Yeah.
Yes.
He pops up all over the place.
Yeah, I think I first came across him in Eyes of the Dragon.
Who is this? Who stands
Flagg.
up in all?
Randall Flagg.
Oh, Flagg and Crimson.
Yeah.
But he's also in the Dark Tower series.
Right.
The Stand, he's alluded to in
Salem's Lot.
no, Equal Things, I think he's alluded to in there too.
Yeah.
But it's the same, isn't it the same world? Dark Tower.
Well, it's multiverse. It's
But
it's a
The Dark
multiverse.
Tower is multiverse because the gunslinger actually comes into the Stand briefly
Yes.
during that book series.
Yes,
While he's crossing planes.
that's how they get Odetta's upgraded wheelchair. Yeah.
Makes me want to reread The Stand and just forget what I saw.
That's what I do. That's what I want to do is I apparently I never read the unabridged version. I may go and get that. I don't know. I've got a Books A Million down the street. I may go and get both and read them both. I don't know, but I'm definitely going to reread the books. I haven't read the book in 20 years. And it just all of this felt wrong. And maybe that's the first time anybody had mentioned they watched the miniseries and that's all they did. And now I'm thinking, well, shit, I bet you that's what happened. I bet you they watched the miniseries. They didn't bother reading the book. And for King to be connected with this and his son to be connected with this, I don't see how that's possible. That you didn't do your homework. But then I think about it, and I think about the Dark Tower movie, and there's other things that have come out recently that I liked. What was it, Doctors? I liked Doctor Sleep. I thought it did a good job of mixing Coppola's movie with the book. I liked it. There are a bunch of people that are like, how dare you, the heresy of liking Doctor? And I'm like, well, I liked it. So what?
Coppola or Kubrick?
Was it Coppola or Kubrick?
The Shining was
You're
Kubrick.
talking about Shining, yeah.
Kubrick.
Yeah.
Kubrick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Kubrick.
sorry.
Yeah, leave it to Paulie. Paulie. Yeah, you got me, Paulie.
No, I mean,
Kubrick.
I'm sorry. That's a big one to. I mean,
Yeah, Coppola and Kubrick.
Kubrick.
I thought that
I love Doctor Sleep.
I thought that they did a good mix of both the book and the movie, and the woman they had play the mom. I was like, holy shit! It looks just like the woman who played her in the Jack
Shelley Duvall.
Nicholson.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was so good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a big Shelley Duvall fan, so I'm like, oh yeah, Shelley Duvall.
Yeah.
I'm one of those weird people that loved Popeye.
I was just about to
Robinson.
ask if you loved her so much you'd watch Popeye again.
Yeah.
I
That
watch it
just
all
came
the
out on
time.
Blu-ray.
Music,
Popeye did.
music's amazing performances. It's actually not as bad as it's, Anyways, that's a whole nother stream.
Yeah. It's weird you bring that up because I just watched my first Robin Williams movie in like 5 years since he passed. I watched Aladdin the other night, and it was the middle of the night. And I couldn't sleep, and I was in a lot of pain. And I was flipping through, and I saw Aladdin, and I was just like, you know what, fuck it. And it's been forever since he died, since he passed away. I haven't watched a Robin Williams movie since he passed away. I just wouldn't do it. I can't.
Well, you want to feel good, watch Popeye. I swear to God, you'll be in a good mood. There's nothing more inspirational for when he sings and he says, I am what I am in that when they're at the races. I every time I see Robin Williams sing and dance that, I just like my heart. So
Personally,
great.
with me, if you want a good range for Robin Williams, World According to Garp.
If you want manic, you got to do Good Morning Vietnam because he's so manic in that. That's
good.
one of the reasons why I always wanted to be on the radio. Is that movie and Pump Up the Volume? Those two movies so made me want to be on the radio one day.
I just say Popeye because like the ones that you mentioned. I mean, there's all these real life connections with those stories. Popeye to me is just I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned Pump Up the Volume. I got that on Blu-ray this week.
Really?
It just came out on Blu-ray from Warner Archive.
I'm gonna have to get it. I've got it on DVD, but if it's out on Blu-ray, I've got to get it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, Garp was great. Garp I saw in the theaters with my mom. She took me to a lot of great movies as a kid. I grew up here in Westwood Village, Robert.
But The Stand. Oh.
Yeah. But any final thoughts, guys? Anything you'd like to bring up? Anything you'd like to say? Because I can't think of anything else to say. I really can't.
All I can say is don't waste your time watching this new one. Just go back and rewatch the old one if you want a good story.
Or read the book.
Yeah, read the book.
Yeah, read the
unabridged version. The unabridged version. You got to read the unabridged version. Then you see how twisted Lloyd really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if somebody took this and edited it, I think you could get a really good, much shorter version of it if you could kind of cut out some of the unnecessary parts. I think because the last one that we had was in '94, I don't think an updated version was a bad idea. I just think they went about it all wrong. And the cast I really did enjoy, I've got to admit, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the ending. Again, Stephen King just does not know how to end this story. But yeah, read the book, read the unabridged version. You'll enjoy it far more.
Yeah. It's just it bums me out that this is the way it was, and this is the way it happened. I was very excited for this. I'd like the casting, and then except for a couple of people, I even liked Amber Heard as Nadine Cross. Evil woman playing an evil woman. I thought was great. And that's my opinion. It's not the opinion of the panel. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'm just saying, in my opinion, evil woman playing an evil woman is, it was great. She was nuts. So thank you everyone for coming and hanging out with us and listening to us go on about The Stand. We are going to have a popcorn movie night in 2 hours. We're going to be watching Galaxy Quest. So come and hang out with us in 2 hours. We're going to be hanging out watching Galaxy Quest for this month's popcorn movie. Thank you so much, panel. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Deej. Thank you, Paulie. Thank you, Purple, so very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a great panel. Thanks for having me. It was so much fun.
And guys, we will catch you all in a couple hours. Thank you so very much. We'll see you later.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good day, everyone in the chat. Be well.
See you later.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.